All right. Well, it's an honor to be here with all of you. I love this place. I was ordained a priest here at the National Shrine 10 years ago. It's just fantastic what this place has done for so many people, what it's done for me in particular in making me a priest. And it's an honor for me to be here in front of all of you today. I got to meet many of you as I was walking around, and it's such a blessed day for all of us. And I want to share with you during this time that I have about what the Lord has done for me. But as I give this testimony, I want you to keep in mind those in your family that maybe need a little, what I call, spiritual kick in the pants, right? Everybody has family members who probably don't like church, don't go to church, and are not in a good place. As I give my testimony, I want you to keep them in mind. Because if God can do what He did for me, trust me, there's hope for you and your particular situation. Whether it's your spouse who's not faithful, doesn't like church, or your children, keep them in mind, okay? Because God's mercy is for everyone. So I want to give you a quick image. It'll be a little hard to see from where you're at, but you'll probably be able to see it somewhat. This is a picture of me when I was going on 18 years old. Okay, you see me now standing here as a priest, obviously. I'm going to show you this picture, and you're probably going to think it's a girl from the distance. It'll look like a girl, but it's not a girl. Okay, all my girlfriends in the past were jealous because I had longer hair than they did, and this is why. Look at this. Yeah. You can't see it well, I know, but you can probably see the hair. It's quite long. My hair was all the way, at one point, all the way down to my belt, right? Crazy. Now, how did I go from being this guy to being this guy, to being a priest? Something radical had to happen, and it did. You know, when I was young, I didn't grow up in a Christian household of faith at all. And as a result of that, my teenage years were just lived in pagan terms. I didn't believe in God. I didn't believe in heaven or hell, those kind of categories. Never. And I was living just a crazy life. And at one point, if you know my story, you know this, because it's in a book form, by the way, that we have here today. At one point, I was living in Japan with my family because my father was a military officer. And in Japan, I caused so much trouble as an American teenager. You know what they did? I ran away in Japan, actually. You know what they did? They had to, after they captured me, they kicked me out of the country of Japan. Literally, kicked me out. And when I came back to the United States, I had to go to an institution to be locked up for a period of time so that I could try and get better. So I went to my first drug and alcohol rehabilitation center in Pennsylvania. But I got out, and I got worse. I started doing all kinds of crazy things that I wasn't even doing in Japan. But you know what happened during that time? My mom had a radical conversion. My mom, now I see many mothers out there, and I also see many Filipino women out there. You know what happened to my mom? My mom met a Filipino woman, and you know what happened? My mom got converted. You know, Filipino women, they're powerful. Woo! Let me tell you. Yeah, you know. I guarantee you, if all the Filipino women out there opened up your purse right now, you probably got stacks of novenas in your purse. This is standard issue for all Filipino women, right? This is what they do. Well, my mother she became a Catholic through this Filipino woman telling her about Jesus and Mary and the Pope and the Eucharist and the sacraments. And my mom fell in love with Catholicism. So when my mother came back to the States, they captured me. I was deported. I went to my first rehab, and so did my dad, and so did my brother. Well, you know what happened to me? I got worse. And I was living on the streets, basically, and I was living a crazy, crazy life. Rehabilitation center in Philadelphia for another 3 months. And then when I turned 18, I was down in Louisiana, and I got thrown in jail. I'd already been in jail in Japan. Now I was in jail in the United States. Crazy stuff happening, in my life. And all the drugs I was using and all the crazy stuff that was going on. And I went back to my parents' house after I got out of jail, and you know what they were doing? My parents were going to church every day. I thought they were crazy, right? I thought, wow, my parents they're nuts. I wasn't used to that kind of stuff. And they tried to get me to go to church. I'm like, no way, I'm out of here. And I had nowhere to go. I ended back up at my parents' house, and I had what I call the divine 2x4. I was at a serious crisis in my life. I mean, I had, oh my gosh, I didn't know what to do. My life, I thought, was pretty much pointless. I had nowhere to turn. I had no hope. I had no desire, ambition, dreams, goals, career options. I was just a long-haired hippie, doing my own thing. And at one point, I went out into my parents' hallway one evening, and I picked up a book about the Virgin Mary, Mama Mary. Wow. I had never heard about the Virgin Mary, ever. I had no idea who this person was. I read that whole book in one night. One night. And I went the next day, and you know what I did? Of my own free will, I went and searched out and found a Catholic priest. And I talked to that Catholic priest, and I told him things that, he was like, whoa, wow, you did what? Crazy things I was telling this guy. And then I went, he invited me to attend Mass, just to sit in the back and just to watch. And I didn't know what was going on. And I had just miracles happening to me in that book about what was happening in my life. And you know what was happening, really? I was falling in love. I was. I was being what I call, and this is crazy language, I was being romanced by God. I really was. And I found myself just falling in love with Jesus and Mary and the church. And you know what happened that day in that church? Many things. Guess who was in that church when I first walked into that church? God set it up this way. Women. Right? It only took one for my mom to convert, right? But if you get a group of 5 Filipino women, you're in big trouble, right? They're gonna put scapulars on you. They're gonna pray. You're gonna be praying the rosary before you know it, right? Sure enough, they taught me how to pray the rosary. They gave me all these medals of saints, and they gave me scapulars, right? It said, "He who dies wearing this shall not suffer eternal fire." I'm like, awesome. Kissed it, put it on. These Filipino women gave me brown, red, green, blue scapular. I had every kind of scapular known to man around my neck, right? And they taught me how to pray. They taught me how to be devoted. They taught me how to do the Stations of the Cross and all of that. And then I began my own process of becoming Catholic. And it took many months. I started to go to church every day. And you know how radical it was for me? This is radical behavior for a white boy, okay? I was at church in the morning, before the Filipino. That's radical stuff, right? So I'm there. And I'm just loving this. I'm loving this. I know that Jesus is really in the Eucharist. I'm falling in love, more and more in love. And you know what these Filipino women kept doing to me? They kept coming up to me. Now, I wasn't even Catholic yet, okay? Keep that in mind. They were coming up to me and they were saying, now I love Filipinos, but when I imitate them, this is how I imitate them. Out of no disrespect, I love Filipinos, trust me. But this is what they were saying to me. You should become a father. You should become a Catholic priest. The young people need people like you. We need a holy priest. I'm like, what? I'm like, oh no. I'm like, thank you, but I can't do that. I can't do that. I'm a great sinner. I couldn't be a priest. And they said, oh, okay, but you're better now. I said, oh, yeah. I'm much better now. God has set me free. I know the truth and it's wonderful. But Filipino women, they're funny. They're so funny. They're persistent. They don't give up, right? So this one Filipino woman, she said, okay, so if you don't become a father, I have a beautiful daughter. What? Right? Oh, no, I've been down that road. I need to focus. I need to pray, right? So I just kept praying to Jesus and Mary, what do you want me to do? Do you want me to get married? It'd be wonderful to have a Filipino wife and have tons of Catholic children and raise a Catholic family. That'd be fantastic, right? But what do you want me to do, heaven? What are you asking of me now that you've given me my life back? And I heard an invitation to be a priest. And I couldn't believe it. I'm like, are you talking to me? I mean, you know me. You know all the crazy things I've done. That's going to take like a lot of power to make me a priest. And as I kept praying, I just felt I couldn't resist this. I couldn't. And I didn't have peace when I tried not to do it, And so I just kept praying about it, and I started to contact vocation directors. Now remember, I'm not even Catholic yet, right? So I'm still becoming Catholic, and I'm already thinking. So I'm praying about this, and then I become a Catholic, and then I go and I visit a religious community. You know who it was? These guys here, who run the National Shrine of Divine Mercy. I went to their house in Washington, D.C., and I met these guys, and they were awesome. They loved Mama Mary. They loved Our Lady so much. Around the dinner table, they talked about Our Lady. And they talked about the Eucharist. They talked about everything to me. And I was like, wow, man, it would be a privilege to be a part of you guys. You guys are awesome. And I was like, sign me up. But they said, well, we got to pray about it if we want to let you enter. And I said, okay, well, pray about it because I'm ready, And they prayed about it. And you know what they did? They said I could join. And so almost 20 years ago, over again and relearn everything and go to college, go to seminary and all of that. And then 10 years ago, by the grace of God and His mercy, right here in this chapel at the shrine, May 31st, 2003, I was ordained to the holy priesthood. Thanks be to God. And thanks to the prayers of so many people who pray, Lord, give us priests. We need priests, right? I'm the last person that whatever. They can't believe it. They're like, no way. You are a priest, right? And I'm like, tell me about it, brother. I can't believe I'm doing this, but God has been so good to me, right? And I want to thank so many of you for so many of the prayers that you pray. And to my Filipino friends, I say, salamat po for all your prayers. It's amazing what God is doing in our times. And remember, as I said at the beginning of this talk, who don't like the church, don't go to church, wouldn't come to something like this. Maybe it's your spouse, your children. You don't give up hope, okay? You pray those rosaries. Those rosaries, they have power. I see this in my own life. Those sacrifices that you make, they have a lot of power. Once again, I'm going to refer to something because there's so many Filipinos here. I gotta say this. In the Philippines years ago, there was a revolution, right? And you know that the Philippines and prayed the rosary, and there wasn't a bullet fired, no bloodshed. That's amazing. And you know what heaven has now given to us, and what we're going to be celebrating today in a huge way? And it only takes like 5 to 7 minutes, right? That's amazing. We have the Rosary and the Divine Mercy Chaplet. It's like the 1-2 punch in the spiritual life. It really is. So when you're praying for your family members, and you're praying for conversions, and you're praying for that spiritual kick in the pants, you're praying for the divine 2x4 to come into your family's life, keep that in mind as you pray. Because sometimes I know it can be difficult. And you say, I've been praying for years, Father. When are they going to change? Remember this. When my mother became Catholic and became very devout, I got worse. Right? Not because she became Catholic, but because now she could deal with it. She had the resources at her fingertips in the sacraments, in the treasures of the church to deal with her delinquent son, me, and the nightmare that I put her through. You know what I call my mom now? My Monica. My Saint Monica, right? She is awesome. I love my mom. And now I pray the rosary with my mom. I pray the chaplet with my mom. I bless my mom. It's crazy, right? It's incredible what God can do. So don't give up hope. As long as you've got pulse, you've got hope. As crazy as this world is, and it is, God has not abandoned us. He hasn't abandoned you and your marriage or your children, as strange as they may be, right? He hasn't. He's in love with them. He loves them more than you do. And you know what He often does? He wants your cooperation in your broken heart and your emotions that hurt so many times in these relationships. And you know what He's going to do with your heart? He's going to squeeze every drop of love that He can out of it so that He can make you a saint. And in that process, you know what He's doing? This is my analogy. He's taking like all of your tears and all of your pain, and He's filling them like a spiritual bucket. And in His time, He's going to take all of that, and He's just going to dump it on your children and on your spouse, because that's how He works. He's got treasures beyond your wildest imagination. Today, we're going to open up our arms today at Holy Mass, and we're going to be rained down upon by the mercies of God with all the promises that Jesus tells us about this day. This is incredible stuff, my friends. It's an honor for me to be here as a Marian priest, to be celebrating this day with you. And for all of you who want to find out more and maybe get the book about my conversion or the brand new book that I wrote, which is called Under the Mantle, Marian Thoughts from a 21st Century Priest, I highly encourage you to get a copy of this book in our book tent. But if you can't today because you want to reserve your spot, where you are right now, coffee table, put it in the bathroom. I don't care where they read it, as long as they read it, right? God can bring about conversions anywhere, right? Get these books and have them read it. It's powerful stuff. Remember, a book changed my life. My mom put that book on her bookshelf. I read it, and it changed my life. Books are powerful. So I encourage you to get those and pray those rosaries, pray those chaplets, pray those novenas, pray all those devotions, pray to the saints, pray to Our Lady especially for great conversions in our time. We live in amazing times. It's in many ways the worst of times, but it's the best of times. We live in an era of Marian apparitions. We live in the era of divine. I'll bet you he's going to say some profound stuff. He already did, Brother Chris tells me. Yeah, boy. Can't wait to read this stuff. This is amazing, my friends. Open up your hearts today to all the graces and mercies that God wants to give you, your family, and our entire world. May God bless you, my friends, all the days of your life. Amen.